Ah! Huh? With the announcement of the new Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake, I figured it would be fun to compile a top 10 list relevant to the new title, because apparently I'm a dirty trend follower these days, and Zelda is so hot right now. But since I'm likely late to the upload party, I figured I'd move away from a generic Zelda video and instead talk about the other major element of Link's Awakening, and that's the fact that it's all in a dream. Dream sequences are not a rare event in the video game world, and they take on many different forms and purposes. So here are the top 10 dream sequences in video games. Starting off, we have a classic. We have Earthbound's Magic Hand. Magic Hand is discovered after collecting all parts of the 8 melodies, and has Ness, and Ness alone, venture into this other world, which symbolizes his mind and subconscious. Here, Ness discovers family members, defeated enemies, and his past selves in order to achieve spiritual purity. Ness must enter his subconscious and defeat the embodiment of his nightmare and his own evil in order to awaken his true strength and gain a massive power boost. Quite the intense introduction to a dream from a simple SNES game. Following with the bitty aesthetic, our number 9 slot goes to Shovel Knight with a more direct approach to the dream sequence, as in this case the events are literally Shovel Knight's occasional reoccurring dream. The story of Shovel Knight is that he and his partner Shield Knight are equal heroes and love interests until Shield Knight is captured by the Enchantress, and so Shovel Knight's quest has him traverse the lands to save Shield Knight from the Enchantress's clutches. But as he's on the path, he has the same dream 3 times, each a tad more difficult than the last, tasking him to catch a falling Shield Knight from the sky. All symbolic and great at portraying an emotional story in a 2D platformer. Not to mention, it all builds up to the ending where Shovel Knight's imaginary scenario materializes to be real once Shield Knight is released. Only this time there is a definitive ending as she finally lands in his arms. Talking of dreams, how's about a game that's entirely about dreams? In comes Mario and Luigi Dream Team, because what gimmick haven't they played around with? Regardless, a giant chunk of the game can technically be defined as dream sequences, thanks to Luigi's new ability to apparate his dreams for Mario to leap into and interact with. Now when it comes to picking what part is the best, really it's up to subjective opinion, but for me it has to be the giant battle boss fights in the game. One of the few experiences in the last decade to make me verbally go, whoa, when it occurred for me in-game. Just the fact that it plays by turning the 3DS on its side and giving you this giant cutscene for the battleground was just amazing to me. And though it might not be such a deep inner mentality sequence where Luigi discovers that his true power comes from within himself rather than because Mario is lingering on his shoulder or anything, these events are still awesome to play, and I really enjoy them. Simply beating up baddies in a crazy cinematic way is pretty good to me. This really is a dream. Far Cry 3. I bet you haven't heard about that game in a long time. Well, towards the end of the game, you as Jason Brody become intertwined with a local tribe on the island you end up stranded on. Within that tribe is the leader Citra, who becomes progressively more convinced that you are the legendary warrior who will help bring the tribe to their former glory by taking down those who have taken over the island and are the main protagonist of the game. As one of the final steps to proving who you are, she supplies you with a hallucinogen which drops you into a giant boss battle against a giant. It was certainly a shock to me, considering I was settled quite comfortably with throwing rocks to distract simple humans. Representing the domination of Voss and Hoyt, the antagonists, over the island, as well as showing Jason as a tribal hero, the dream sequence has you following the mythological prophecy of defeating the beast who controls the people's land and eventually severing their heads or stabbing them in the eye. It's a crazy jump from the norm and felt pretty intense when I first experienced it. Of course, we couldn't get through a video about dreams without talking about Batman. More specifically, the many nightmarish dream sequences Batman has to endure thanks to Scarecrow in Batman Arkham Asylum. Scarecrow's whole gimmick is using chemical gas to manifest the fears of whoever comes in contact with the gas, and Batman is just the same. In Arkham Asylum, you'll be pitted against all sorts of reality-breaking moments, from sneaking past a gigantified scarecrow multiple times, finding your parents berating you from their body bags, taking you back to your child form to experience their deaths again, or being captured by multiple villains only to be shot in the face, clearly representing all of Batman's fears and the concepts he has to overcome as a character. It also does a pretty good job at messing with the player as well, with some horrific screams introducing you to the fear, as well as making your game seemingly crash, actually killing you, and forcing you to retry with the very helpful suggestion of using the middle stick to avoid the Joker's bullets. It certainly plays with dreams and creatively runs with it, and if Batman can endure it all, then it says quite a lot about his character as well. Number 5 on our list is an iconic scene from the Legend of Zelda series. It's the disturbing one. With Link purifying the Lanayru province at Lake Hylia, the light spirit there warns him not to falter on his path by explaining how some went wrong in the past. And it's creative to say the least. Playing out like a kind of theatre performance, there's no background, and Link is thrust into a kind of acting role, perfectly performing the part of the people he's supposed to portray. Makes sense since it's literally just telling how he could falter like those in the past. But what stands out is just the complete twist in atmosphere that the player really wouldn't expect. I mean, a warning's a warning, but having Ilya appear with a dagger and no pupils, only to have Link react with no pupils either, running to several Dark Links who cast him away, even though Link then takes one of their places, has them banished due to the light spirits of the world, being gifted with this wonderful nightmare fuel, and then a dazed Link in the real world, followed by the void raining down with multiple twirling Ilyas, and then Link with a creepy smile on his face. I mean, what? The warning certainly did its job, as it's probably one of the most memorable Zelda cutscenes out there. Ugh. So if I'm in a dream, then that means there must be some kind of inner demons or some sort of reflective thing I'm gonna have to go through in like some kind of trial of the mind in my psychology. Oh yeah. I don't have the budget for some crazy action scene. Or maybe my mind's just a misty mush. That's sad. Next, we'll turn our attention to Heavy Rain, the game that has so much stylized cinematography, it's connected more to film and TV than video games. And within the game, there's really two different forms of dream sequences I want to address. The first is a literal dream concocted by one of the main characters, Madison, due to her paranoia and insomnia. During the dream, she is trying to go to sleep, but her apartment is soon ransacked by a bunch of intruders who choose to attack her when she is discovered. It's one of those intense action scenes where the player doesn't know it's a dream until Madison wakes up. Fun. But another slightly more interesting dream sequence is, if you can call it that, comes from another main character, Norman Jayden, who, when interacting with his futuristic FBI equipment, starts to have hallucinations of the more sci-fi variety. And they don't interact with him too much per se, only really popping up as a reminder of Norman's potentially deteriorating mental health, but I still feel it opens up for a nice and creative way of representing the mind and how its perception of the world can be warped. You know, I never realized how many games centered solely around the concept of dreams, as Katherine is yet another one to fit the bill. Every night our protagonist Vincent Brooks has a nightmare in which he must scale a tower of movable blocks avoiding whatever evil entity follows him from below. During the day, he must overcome his relationship issues as it spirals into madness between his girlfriend Katherine and this new mysterious girl, Katherine. Each night the nightmares get worse and more dangerous, and even other men in the world seem to be suffering a similar fate, though whenever they wake up they have no detailed memory of their nightly suffering. And though over half the game takes place within a dream, it's all fairly samey, so we'll use all of it for this next slot. Symbolically, the dream is all about faithfulness and deciding what it is these men, and Vincent, wish for in a relationship, and how they will overcome their fears. Yes, fears are back in another manifestation, to pursue their own relationship goals. Literally, they are fighting for their lives as each interaction with this mysterious Katherine pits them into a lethal moral dilemma where they must make choices and act fast or die in their sleep. I personally really like seeing how all other men in the game, represented as sheep in the dream world, react to the events and somewhat band together to get through this hellish scenario. So far we've covered dreams of spirituality, representation of the mind, and its fears. But The Walking Dead decides to take a very different approach. When reality is the embodiment of all of your fears, the dream world can be one of the only places for real peace and hope. Enter Lee and Clementine, together once again after all these years. In the latter part of the Walking Dead series, Clementine starts to have dreams back to when Lee was alive to have a much needed talk to her old mentor, giving veteran players the nostalgia of reliving iconic locations from Season 1, as well as giving some very important closure for Clementine as she tries to tackle her harsh reality. As a dream, it only works to tell us the story a little more, telling us how Clementine is feeling and giving us some wonderful yet emotional fan service with the occasional reappearances of Lee without ruining the integrity of the overall story. The sequences aren't intense or overly symbolic, but they're powerful and iconic all the same. Okay, so maybe that's it. Maybe this isn't supposed to be some trial or battle, it's a time for me to actually stop and reflect on what is going on. Maybe this dream is an embodiment of who I am. It's time for our honourable mentions. We've got a few, but I'll keep this brief. Harkening back to one of the very first full game sequences, we have Super Mario Bros. 2, having the reality of the game revealed only during the credits. It's simple, non-symbolic, and probably done as a way to not get the story too convoluted, because that plan really worked out well in the future. Second up, we have Life is Strange with another crazy nightmare sequence, all fueled by the addition of time manipulating weirdness. Just before the final confrontation, Max has a kind of meltdown and witnesses all sorts of oddities, from uncomfortable conversations about all of her doubts and mistakes, to bent realities, time moving backwards or not at all, several different memories relived, and angry text messages from everyone you know, including the dog. Ouch! Similarly taking on time travel, kinda, as well as dreams, kinda, we have To the Moon, and the majority of events in the game taking place within the memories of our protagonist's patient. Is it time travel to go backwards through someone's memories using a machine? And since we're not traversing the real world, do you count it as a dream too? Or just VR? Still, it's not symbolic or anything, just literal storytelling with a unique presentation. Next we have Hey Pikmin. Was it all just a result of Oliver's imagination while exploring out in space? It may not be outright confirmed in any English version of the game, but you're damn right I'm gonna believe it is. And our final honourable mention is going to be the game that inspired this whole video, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Acting just the same as Super Mario Bros. 2 and Hey Pikmin, it's just a fun little extra to be revealed. Symbolic? Probably not. Does it matter? Nope. But it's got a new game, and I'm excited for it nonetheless. Now, let's move on to our number one spot. It's GTA 5. Not exactly the type of game you'd expect to have any outlandishly interesting dreams within it, but if I was to change the definition to drug sequence, maybe it would sound more predictable. The protagonists of GTA 5 have several different drug trips across the game. One guy even supplies some to all three characters, but the one I want to pay attention to is the one supplied by Michael's own son. While Michael drives Jimmy home from a drug deal, his vision starts to become blurred, only to discover that Jimmy has taken money from his bank account, is moving out, and is kicking Michael out of the car, leaving him to experience his acid trip out in the middle of the road. Cue quite the hallucination as Michael is dragged away, ambushed by monkeys in an alleyway, abducted by aliens, prodded, and then shot back down to Earth. And then it starts. As a falling Michael, you get to control yourself and somewhat fly across the city of Los Santos. As Michael's life is falling apart and he recalls all of the problems he's currently facing, you get to enjoy the bliss of a happy high, feeling like a superhero with all these beaming neon lights blooming across your screen. It really wraps up the feel of a drug trip being a horrid event for Michael, yet a fun one for the player. But it also tells us more about Michael and his problems, all in a way that's interesting and, most importantly, I've said it enough times already, super fun for the players to experience. It's truly a great time. What's to complain about? I really enjoy it. Good job, Rockstar. Though I'll stay off the drugs in real life. Probably the best idea. kind of dream sequence was that? There was nothing going on. That didn't make any sense. Damn audio log. I hope you enjoyed this video. Looks like I'm getting more and more cinematic as I go. If you like this, consider subscribing, or if you want even more, then become a patron. For this video, patrons will be receiving any behind the scenes content from editing to filming, bonus content in the form of the scrapped IRL ideas for this video, bloopers at the end of the month, as well as each video a full day early, completely ad-free. And after February, there will be weekly bloopers for each individual video too. Find me as Daz Videos on Patreon, Twitter, or Twitch. Streams are every Saturday, and this time we'll be doing Tetris 99 until I finally win one of the games. So, I'll see you then. As for now, my name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.